Hi, hello, hi friends. How's everyone doing? Happy Wednesday, happy midweek. Hope your week has been okay so far, and wherever you are, I hope the weather's okay and that you're enjoying your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time zone it is. So, thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. Hi, Inky, how's it going? It's been a week. It's been a week since we last chatted. Unless I've seen you in other streams. But yeah, let me know what you're up to. If you went to any pen shows in the last little while, Empire State or the Bungubox, the Bungu LA event. Or yeah, if you've been to any pen meetups or anything else that's been fun. Also, let me know if you're going to Pelikan Hubs this week. It's coming up on Friday, so that's only a few days. I feel like there's been a lot of lead up, right? Once you register, it's kind of like, oh, it's in October. But I feel like October has been flying by, and soon enough it'll be the end of the year. And yeah, it's just kind of crazy. Enjoying the afternoon, sun coming through my south window. Oh, amazing. I love when the sun just like streams through the window. I love natural light. Not just because it's great for photography and when you're creating content, but also it's just warming, isn't it? It's kind of nice. Preparing for the hub, going to a new to me location. Oh, amazing. That's awesome. Do you know how many people-ish are expected at that hub? The one I'm going to is sort of an offshoot of the Vancouver one. I know Vancouver hub is going to be pretty big and busy, but the one I'm going to is sort of a smaller group, and so it'll be more intimate and just, you kind of get the one-on-one hangout and connection and stuff like that. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. I also have to prepare for it. So my plan is we can talk about this after too. But my plan is to sort of bring ink samples for people to try. I know there's at least one or two people that are new to fountain pens that are going to be there or plan to be there. And I want to ink navel. But just, let people sort of try out inks and pens that they may not have and see if they like them. And so that's kind of my plan, but yeah, I have to prepare for it, right? I have to make a list of these things. I'm guessing 10 to 20 people. Yeah, that's a good number. I think our group, there's about 15, which is kind of nice. The bigger groups, I find it's fun because you get to sort of there's no pressure, you get to sort of mingle and take part in what you want to, whether it's pen sampling or talking about inks or, swatching and stuff like that. But I also find sometimes the bigger groups that you have to pay to be part of the event, which is fine, but it can also be a challenge or a barrier to some people just wanting to see what's going on. But also, big group, small group, whatever your sort of level of tolerance is in terms of being among a lot of people. Hi, April. How's it going? Are you excited for Pelikan Hubs? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. I love how there's different locations. It's not just, meant to be in a certain place or a certain location. And I love how different hubs and hub masters are sort of taking it, upon themselves to figure out what that location kind of needs and wants. So it kind of varies, right? So I'm looking forward to hearing about where hubs have taken place, the kind of groups that, how many people showed up and what kind of activities people do at the hubs and what kind of came out of it. So I think that's part of the reasoning behind Pelikan Hubs is just for, to provide sort of a day and a time or an event umbrella of hubs taking place all over the world, and it kind of brings people together. And I like that, and I like that people are open to doing it if it works, whether you're close to a hub or whether the time works for you. So there's lots of factors, but I'm excited to see, how many hubs take place and how many people in total sort of come out to this kind of event. So yeah, that'll be fun. The smaller group feels more accessible to me as an introvert. Yeah, same. And this is coming from someone who loves going to pen shows and stationery events. I feel like sometimes the bigger groups can be a little bit overwhelming and you don't know where to start, especially if you don't know a lot of people who are also going. So you can't look for a familiar face where you kind of feel, relaxed and at ease. But I kind of feel the same way about smaller groups. It's just like, especially if it's a meetup and you want to talk about something informal, like there's no schedule, right? Like there's no set sort of like, there's no seminar or workshop or something taking place. It's kind of, you're just showing up and then, trying out pens and stuff like that. So for me, in that kind of environment, I like the smaller group, the more, intimate, like social setting. But I do know people who love being in big groups and they kind of, whether or not you're extroverted or you sort of feed off of other people's positive energy. And if you're in a bigger group, you get to try out more pens and inks and stuff, right? So it's kind of a win-win if you look at it that way, depending on where you're going and what is available to you. So we can talk about it, Pelikan hubs. We can talk about anything, really. It's just a sort of casual, chatty Wednesday. We're just going to take it easy. I am going to do my currently inked spread. So I'm going to take out my currently inked fountain pens. We can talk about them. I'll tell you the nibs and the inks that I have. I also have the ink bottles here that I can show you. And feel free to chat or throw in questions or anything else like that in the chat. And we'll just kind of take it easy. So if you have fountain pens with you, feel free to take them out. If it's your first time joining the stream or if you're watching the replay, thank you so much. I'm Corolla on social, so you can find me as From Corolla. And I'm a stationery enthusiast, so I love all things stationery. This stream is about streaming art, painting with watercolors, fountain pen inks, and playing around with analog tools. So today it's going to be about fountain pens. So we'll get into that. I like to do my currently inked spread once a month, usually mid-month, because at the beginning of the month, I tend to ink up my fountain pens, and sometimes I change my mind about the ink that's in it. Sometimes it doesn't work with the pen, doesn't look great, or it doesn't feel right. I may not enjoy the writing experience as much, and it's sometimes a simple just change out the ink to something else, and then I find it's fine. So the first couple of weeks, I like to play with my fountain pens, get a feel for their writing and whether or not I sort of like vibe with the pen. And then mid-month, I'm kind of like, okay, this is my lineup for the month. It's all good. And so I do my currently inked then. And then usually it's another couple of weeks or so before I, start to think, okay, I think I can change up the inks. And usually when I run out of ink. So sometimes I refill a pen and sometimes I just decide to go with a new ink, as one does. So this month I have 11 inked fountain pens. And for me, that's actually kind of on the lower end of inked pens. I usually hover around the average of like 13 to 15 currently inked because I have pens that have specific nibs for specific use case. And then I have a few pens where I just kind of like to test out the nib, or I have new inks that I want to try in a pen. So it's kind of a mix between pens that have a specific purpose and others who I'm just playing with. And so that's why I do 2 types of spreads, which I'll show you today. If you haven't seen me do these before, I do a currently inked spread. So this was for last month. And it's just basically writing with each pen. Just writing down the pen, the nib, and the ink that it's inked with. And I include all of my pens that I've inked, even if they've been inked month over month. Some I just consistently keep inked. But others I test and play with every month. And that's when I do my notably inked spread. My notably inked is a set of pens that I notably ink them because I want to experiment with them. I'm curious how the nib writes. Or I'm just trying a new combination of pen to nib to ink. So that's why I do 2 different spreads, and they look different because, one is just listing out all of the inks that I have, all of the pens that I've inked. And then the other spread, I just pick out, my top sort of pens that I'm playing around with that month. And they may not be inked consistently month over month because I like to change it up. So that's what we're going to do today. Hi, Bye Potato. How's it going? Magical Quill, hello. Thule, how's it going, friend? Heading to a medical appointment soon. May Lurk, I hope all is good. Sending healthy vibes. And yeah, glad you're here regardless. So to do my currently inked spread, I have actually the notebook that I'm using, in case you're curious, is the Musubi Rasa notebook. I got this at the SF Pen Show last year, I think. Could have been the year before. It may have been the year before. Anyways, so that's what I'm using. The paper is fine. It kind of reminds me of Cosmo Air Light, something similar to that, just because of the texture of the paper. Not texture, it's kind of like a smooth coated, shiny feel to it. And so it's not necessarily my favorite kind of paper to write on. And so I'm using it for currently inked because, it's just kind of nice to use for fountain pens, but not necessarily like a notebook to me. I love the notably ink concept and seeing what pens and inks you have on the go. Yeah, I like it too. The reason why I came up with a distinction between currently inked and notably inked is because I kind of get bored with just writing and drawing with the same fountain pens every month over month. And there are some pens that I just will not clean out because they have a specific purpose and I use them for, one thing. And so I found that drawing with them every month, I was just getting bored of it. And so having this notably inked distinction in my fountain pen lineup, first of all, it lets me kind of justify inking more pens because I don't need to use them daily and I don't need to use them in all of the things for them to be inked up. And then the other thing is it kind of just like makes it a little bit more interesting to swatch them, right? To write and to draw with them when I'm kind of like, intentional about the nib that I pick to put in that pen, if you can interchange nibs. And then also the ink that I choose, like it could be seasonally. My ink selections tend to be kind of like bright in the spring and summer. And a little moodier in the fall and winter. So it's kind of interesting for me to see that as well. Whether I sort of pick ink colors specifically because it's, a season or something like that. So, and then to create my spreads, there's one side of the paper, or one side I use for state of the collection, and that's just kind of a review of how the previous month went. So if I got new inks, if I got new pens, if I was gifted any bottles of inks, things like that, I note it down because that way I kind of have like a running documentation of what I add to my collection. And then on the other side, I do my currently inked. So these stamps are from Everyday Explorers, and they're really, really cool. So useful. And they just kind of spruce up the spread a little bit. So state of the collection and currently inked. Hi everyone else who had DIY rated from the Inktober guy. Yeah, I jumped over. I went with the Pen Addict raid to the Inktober October inks. I forget what the stream was. And I was there for, 5-10 minutes or so, and then I was like, yeah, I have to set up my stream. So I quite enjoyed that though. New to me stream. Someone using Alami Safari. So we're like, fountain pens, yes. Fountain pen people are here. Somehow we find people who are also into fountain pens. And hopefully we don't overwhelm them a little bit. Like, who are these people? We're like, oh, what are you using? What do you have inked up? But yeah, it's kind of fun. It was a good time though. I like seeing how other people use their fountain pens, use their stationery. It's inspiring. Inspires me to use my tools too. So, so hopefully I kind of like to do it in like a gradient or rainbow order, but hopefully I ordered it correctly, but it's fine if not. So first I'm just going to do all the currently inked, and we can talk about each pen and the nib and the ink that I have in it. So this is actually something I have inked for the past few months with the same ink, and it has the same nib because I haven't taken it out, but it's a Leonardo Momento Zero. And the nib is a reverse architect ground by Gena from Custom Nib Studio. It is one of my favorite nibs to date, just because it's really, really fun, but also very practical. So it's a reverse architect because on the correct writing side, I started with a broad nib, and it kind of writes more like fine to medium. And so it's great for, taking down notes or something like that. But then on the reverse side, so you turn it over and it's an architect, which is great for, printing or headers or something like that. Or sometimes when I just want to write in all caps, which is, sometimes when I'm angry or something like that in my journal, just and I have it inked up with Herbin Lee Detail, and I find this a great brown ink. It's just like all around just a nice ink. Oops. I put the accent on the wrong letter. That's fine. But yeah, it's just like a good standard brown. And I've had this ink for a little while. I just find it really nice. Consistent and reliable. And I like it in this pen. We pretty much spent the hour pen filing. I'm sure he's like, where did these people come from? I think he mentioned it was his first time using the Lamy Safari or something like that. And it's just kind of funny. Like, if you're going to put Inktober or, use a fountain pen, that's like a signal. That's like a bat signal, right? We just come. So my second pen is, again, I've had this inked up for the past, at least for the past month. So I had this in September. With the same ink because it was an ink sample that I used up. It's the TheCoffeeMonsterzCo Esterbrook collaboration pen. One of my favorites. I got a journaler nib with it, if I can focus. So the journaler is ground by Gena. And if it's for Esterbrook, then it comes on a medium stock nib. And so it's a medium. Hi, Bingo. How's it going? Thank you so much for the follow and welcome in. And yeah, so I got the journaler on here. And the sample that I used for this, I think is a great match to the pen. It's called Sailor Kamoshika. And it's really, really nice. And so I used a sample and I love it so much that I need to get a bottle of this thing. But because I think I'm running low in here anyways. I think the journaler is a great journaling nib because it's sort of like a rounded stub variation, and so it feels really comfortable to write with. I think it's Shikiori. It's like a really dark mauve, I wouldn't say like a dark sort of purpley, purple black. Yeah. It's a very, very nice color. He was totally chill about it. Yeah, that's awesome. You kind of have to be, but I've been, I know pen addict raids can be a bit overwhelming. And like I've been joining pen addict streams for a few years now, and the first time that I got raided by Brad on my stream, I was just like, it's very overwhelming. We can be an overwhelming community even though we're really nice. So yeah, my third pen that I'm going to swatch is the Esterbrook. It's from the Quirky Leaf collection, so it's this really nice olivey green. And funnily enough, the nib that I have in it is a broad stock nib that I got ground by Gena into a journaler. So it's a broad journaler versus this one, which is from a medium. So the line width is actually, like, to me, at least as the writer, is quite noticeable in terms of the difference. And I have this pen inked up with Oblation, called Oblation Olive. So it's from the Oblation shop in Portland. And I got it when I visited in July. I think they have 4 or 5 in their lineup of inks. And I wanted them all. I love, too, how it has this like wax cap or wax on top of the cap, and it just looks really cool. Probably one of my favorite olive green inks. It's a nice green. That's an interesting ink color. Yeah, are you talking about the Sailor ink? I bet it changes a lot between papers in a good way. Yeah, I find it interesting when inks are kind of like that. And then I think the other thing too is that it might be a little saturated in this pen, or just in general, because it was a sample, and it's not that I had it sitting for a long time, but it was just sitting there. And so I feel like it might be a little bit more saturated than maybe it is in the bottle. So I'm kind of curious to find that out too. Yeah. So if it's more saturated, then it will look darker too. And that could possibly be it too. Hi, Paw Pal Gal. How's it going? How are you today? I'm so glad you could join. Just in time for me to talk more about my pens. So this one is it's a Franklin-Christoph 46. And I think the body is called Antique Glass. And it's really, really pretty. It's this really sort of muted teal. Very, very light. And so it does kind of look like glass. And over time, you see a little bit more stippling or a little bit more of this material in the body, even in the cap. So yeah, it's just really interesting. And the nib that I have in it is from Franklin-Christoph. It was a broad stock nib that I got ground by CY from Tokyo Station Pens, or Kyoseido. And it was ground into an architect. So it's a broad architect, which is super fun. And it kind of has a sharp, I wouldn't say super sharp, but it's not rounded. It's not a rounded architect. So I can feel the feedback of the nib as I write with it, which I kind of enjoy. So when you're kind of writing with it in cursive, or you sort of use loops, you can feel just the way that it's ground. You can feel the feedback on it. And once in a while, I kind of like that in a nib. And the ink that I have in this pen is called Bungubox Tears of Alice. It's such a nice bottle. All the Bungubox bottles are really, really pretty. They're aesthetically pleasing. So I really like this ink too. It's such a nice bright teal. Probably one of my favorite teals. Oh, that's okay. You can't stay the whole time. I have to take my cat into the vet for a 2-week post-op checkup. She had 7 teeth removed. Oh, wow. Oh no, what a champ. I hope she's doing okay though. 7 teeth, that's a lot. Yeah, it's a beautiful pen. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. And even though it doesn't have a clip, and I know some people are particular about having a clip so it doesn't like roll off your table or something like that. I find that it looks very sleek that way, and glassy. So it's kind of nice. Damn, that's 6 more teeth than I had removed this week. I know. I can't imagine having that many teeth removed. It's just, wow. Hopefully she's okay though. So another Estie, it's called Aqua is the finish on here. And the nib that I have in here it was a standard double broad, so BB, and I had it ground by Kirk from Penrealm into a Katana. So I had that done at the SF Pen Show a couple months ago. And it's my first Katana grind from Kirk. And I wanted it because I love the line variations that you can get. So at a higher writing angle, you get a finer line width, And then at a lower writing angle, you get sort of the broader line width. So it's kind of nice when you're printing or you're doing cursive to have that variation there. So yeah, I find it fun. I have this inked up with Wearingeul, Robinson, Crusoe, and it's a sample that I have. I think I have a little bit left, but it turns out that I actually really like this ink. So surprise, surprise, it's like a blue teal. So it's a teal that leans bluer, maybe like a bright blue. That's really nice too. And I think the ink actually has a little bit of green in it as well. It's kind of a blue-green. Hi, geez. Love when grinds give you variation. I know. I'm super into the naginata type of grind where I can get like different line variations. Like I'm obsessed with that. And so I have a lot of that kind of grind. But more recently, or in the last like 6 months or so, I've really been into reverse grinds. So I love that you can get like a stock line on the correct, you know, the writing side, and then on the reverse have like something super fun or just something different, so that like you get 2 different writing styles from one nib. I find that super fun. So Robinson Crusoe is one of your faves. Yeah, I heard someone else say that too recently, and I was like, how did I not know? Like, I'm sure this ink has been around for a little while. It's not a new ink from Wearingeul. So, like, how have I not known about it? Because it's so nice. It's really pretty. It's got like a lime green accent. Yes, I noticed that in a swatch I did. Like, I just painted with the ink. And this is why I like painting with fountain pen inks, is because you can notice these things that, you know, sometimes even with like a broad nib, sometimes it doesn't show obviously. It doesn't show clearly, you know, that when you look at it, you're like, oh yes, you know, these are the properties. So I'll give her extra pets from everyone. Yay. I hope you do. Yeah, that was a lot. Oh. Sadly, she has gum disease. Oh, I'm so sorry. That really sucks. Poor kitties. We love our kitties. So this pen is a Pelikan, M205, my only Pelikan, and I had to ink it up for Pelikan hubs. So this is my only contribution to the Pelikan hubs, you know, point of getting together. Is like, here's my little Pelikan. I don't have a flock, but I have a lone flying bird. But I do like it. I really enjoy it. I don't ink it up as often as I probably should. I've had it for a few years because I wanted to try, you know, one of these pens. I just wanted to try it out. And so I got one in a fine nib, because at the time I was really into extra fines and fines, and realized this fine actually writes more like a medium, which they tend to be juicier, which I appreciate now because I love juicier nibs now. I'm more into the broads and naginata sort of line variation type of nibs now. But yeah, I had to ink this up. So, and it writes so smoothly. I always forget how smooth these nibs can write. And I have a bottle of Pelikan Edelstein Golden Lapis, which was the ink of the year for last year, I believe. And yeah, so that's my only bottle of Pelikan too, of bottled ink, which I got gifted to by one of the founders or the president of the Vancouver Pen Club when I went to my first meetup, and I was like, oh, amazing. I get a bottle of ink, which was really, really nice. But yeah, I think that's a good sort of pairing, the blue and the blue. It is a shimmer ink, so I was kind of nervous about putting it in the pen, but you know what? I did it. I did let the shimmer settle a little bit before I filled up the pen because I didn't want it to be too shimmery. And it turns out I don't think I got a lot of shimmers in it, so that's good. I don't want it to be too shimmery because I don't want to deal with you know, having to unclog or sort of having the shimmers sitting on the nib for too long. So I do like the blue color of this ink though. It's very pretty. I do have the ink bottle here somewhere. Let me see. So this is the bottle of ink, and so it's very pretty. It's an elegant bottle. And that's the shimmer on the bottom. So it is quite shimmery. And I have used it before, and I think it's a gold shimmer. And it can be a little inconsistent in my experience, because I found that when I first start writing, most of the shimmer comes out and then it sort of tapers off. And that kind of makes sense. You know, you have the shimmer sort of sitting at the tip of your nib, ready to go. And so it sort of is concentrated at first, and then it kind of tapers down or tapers off a little bit. But for that reason, I think I was kind of like, I don't know. I kind of like when, you know, if you're writing with a shimmer ink, I like the shimmer to be sort of evenly distributed where, you know, you can see the shimmer throughout the page, not just at the beginning and then it's sort of, you know, you can't see it anymore. So. Oh, glad to hear you're on the mend, for sure. So the next pen is a Schon design for Custom Nib Studio. So Ian and Gena collab pen called the Sashiko. And it's very, very pretty. It's made of Ultim, so it's very light. It's a light material. And it's also clipless, so I like how like sleek it looks. And I do like the patterns on it as well because they're very unique. Unique to the pen, so the pattern isn't like a consistent pattern on the pen, and also it won't be exactly the same as other pens that are made as well. So I found that very interesting. Picked it up at the Portland or the PNW pen show in Portland this year in July. So I threw in a perspective nib, which is done by Gena, and again, line variations. So it's a variation of the Naginata grind, and very smooth to write with. So overall, I love the experience of writing with this pen. You can get those broad lines at a lower angle of writing. And I have it inked up with another Oblation ink. This is actually the PNW Pen Show ink, Oregon Marionberry. Which is like a really nice dark plum color. Probably on theme with sort of the autumn and fall colors. And then my next pen is the Pilot Custom A23, one of my favorite pens ever. Really glad I got this. The nib is a signature nib, so it's kind of a rounded stub type of nib, and so it's very smooth to write with, even though you sort of get those wider downstrokes. But when you sort of do loops with them, it feels comfortable. It's not like you get a lot of feedback. And I have it inked up with Hachimonjia Ginzen Snow Gray. And I really like it. It's like a moody blue gray. Hi. Yes, it is a piston. Be chaos. Yeah, so it can actually hold a lot of ink. Welcome in. And then next I have the Platinum 3776. And this is like one of those pens that I have had inked up for almost 2 years probably. And just, I do not clean, like I don't replace this or retire the pen. I just consistently use a carbon ink cartridge in here. And I use it for taking notes, or if I sort of have to write things down. Like I use it for book notes, book reviews, things like that. The nib is an ultra extra fine, so similar to a needlepoint nib. It's very, very, very needly, but I love it. Which is kind of funny because I do prefer broad nibs, and this is like the opposite of a broad nib. This is the most fine you can get from Platinum. And I still really find it fun. So Platinum Carbon Black. And because it's an ultra extra fine, it will take forever to use up the ink because it just puts down the finest line. So you can see, compared to all the other pens that I have inked up, this is like the finest line. So it's not always fun to inks, like to write with as or swatch it, but it is always inked up. So the next pen, super, super small and cute, is the Baby Swaro from Skogsy, an independent pen maker. The material is Ultim, so it makes it a very light pen. And the nib that I threw in here is a Franklin-Christoph double broad sig. So it's a BB sig. And I love this combination. I don't think I will change this up anytime soon because I also have it inked up with just the blackest ink. And it's the Platinum Chokuro, blackest of all black inks. It's very stubby and smooth to write with as well. The nib is beautiful, and it's such a great combination, great pairing to this pen. I love that it's just like all black. It writes in black. It's just so much fun. So it is quite chunky. I love you sort of put down a lot of ink, and because it's such a special black ink too, I love, seeing it so dark. So the last pen, my 11th, is another Skogsy Choya. It is the chunkiest pen. It's the chunkiest pen I own. But still, it's really, really pretty. And the reason why I love it so much is because of this really fun grip. So this section makes me just think of like lava or fire. And it's just so fun. And the nib that I have in here, it was a double broad engraved nib. Let's see if I can show you that. It's the Golden Gate Bridge, and it was engraved for the San Francisco Pen Show by Kirk from Pen Realm, right? So he does these commemorative engraved nibs for most of the pen I guess the pen shows that he'll be at. And so I got a double broad, and I got him to grind the double broad into a monoline and do a reverse grind on it as well. So it's just like all around super, super fun. Hopefully it writes. Let's see if the ink is there. All right. We'll just have to get it writing again, which is fine. So it really is like writing with like a Sharpie or just like the fattest nib. But it's great for if you're writing like a header or if you're writing really big, if you have the space for it. And I have reverse cursive italic on it. So I love the contrast of a monoline. The chunkiest writing with a cursive italic, it's such a nice contrast. And it's great because if you're, depending on what you're using it for or the mood you're in, what you want to write with it, it's kind of nice to have the option. And so that's why reverse grinds are now like my favorite sort of thing to experiment with and test. And because it's such a chunky pen that I have this nib in, it's very comfortable to write with, either on the correct side or on the reverse side. And I have it inked with Diamine Onyx Black. It's just a nice standard black, but it has a shine to it a little bit. So when it dries, it looks a little shiny, which is kind of fun. You can kind of pick it up from here. So that's interesting as a black ink too. Hi, Jack Toy. How are you? How's it going? I also saw you in the chat in the previous stream, the Inktober stream that we rated. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, I'm glad you were able to join. And how are you doing? Are you going to Pelikan Hubs? And you're just in time to see all of my currently inked fountain pens for October. All 11 of them. Which is like, if you see my currently inked from previous months, last month I had 10, which is probably my like all-time lowest. But usually I tend to, I average sort of around 13 to 15, which is kind of my sweet spot, probably 16. So it just depends on the month and probably the season too, where I kind of feel like different colors, and sometimes it's bright, sometimes it's not. So I kind of like this palette. I do tend to go for greens, blues, teals, and sort of those shades. And then I always have, my trusted black, or brown ink in rotation. And this is kind of my comfort zone right here. And I really want to get into more purples, like purpley purples, not sort of the dark plummy ones that I like. But I kind of want to get into more like deep purples. And so that's my goal for next year. And I already know that I don't really tend to ink up reds, pinks, or like bright pink, oranges. Yellow has to be legible. Yeah. And anything that's muted or lighter, anything that's not so legible, I love to paint with. So where all the bright inks tend to go is when I'm painting. So that's when I take them out. So excited for Friday. Yes. Gamma Gamma, how's it going, Eric? How have you been, friend? And what have you been up to? Have you been to any events lately? Or are you planning on going to any events like the hubs? So now that I've done my currently inked spread, I'm going to do my notably inked spread. And I think because I don't have a lot of fountain pens this month, I think so this was for last month. I think I'm going to probably swatch almost all of them. Maybe not the black inks, because they're not that fun. They're practical, but they may not be that fun. But we'll see. We'll see as we go. Maybe I'll do 10, so we can do 5 on each side. But yeah, this is kind of the past few months. And you can see that I do tend to sort of go for earthy colors, except for this. Summer months are really fun. I go for brighter colors, but we're in the fall, so we're going to go with seasonally, themed colors. And for my notably inked spread, I'm using the Galen Leather Everyday Book made with Tomoe River paper. Also fountain pen friendly, and it's blank, so I like it for drawing. Yes, you're the Chicago Hubmaster. I knew this, of course. I was like, there's a piece of missing information that I'm not pulling at right now. I knew that you were the Hubmaster. I hope that it's going well in terms of planning. I know it's a lot of work, so I appreciate you doing it for your area. I know it's a lot of work, but hopefully it's all fun, worth it. Hopefully everything goes seamlessly. Without any problems or anything like that. So, and fountain pen news. Denver Hub Goddess. Yes. I saw, I think it was in Brad's stream this morning, Fountain Pen News. You shared that Pelikan is sending you the boxes, right? That were, yeah, UPS destroyed some of your inks and Pelikan is sending you some more, hopefully. Or, you know, you're able to somehow get more. Yes, they're going to replace it. Okay, that's awesome. That's really nice of them. I hope they get to you in time, though, but... yeah, that's really thoughtful. Because why would you... I don't know. Why would they get rid of boxes if, you know, even if the paperwork is not correct or whatever the excuse is, why get rid of boxes of inks? I don't know. But I hope you do get everything that you need for your hub. I hope everyone gets what they need for their hub, because it's fine to, you know, supplement, and some hubs, you know, they get sponsored gifts or giveaways or, you know, raffle item type things. And then I'm sure, you know, people who have been in the community for a long time will bring things to share with, or people that come. You know, I'll bring some things, and I'm sure other people will, you know, bring ink samples and stuff like that for people to try out, which is really nice. Like, which is, you know, a big part of a meetup. Like, why not be able to try out inks and pens, right? They won't, but I'll set up a meetup for people to get them. Yeah, because it is this week. So the timing. But that's really nice that you're going to get them, and people will be able to enjoy them at a later time. You're going to doing giveaways for an hour. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Are you getting the ink of the year? Because rumor has it that not every hub is getting the ink of the year for this year. That they might just be getting inks in general. But we'll see. You know, I'm sure it varies by hub, depending on how many people are part of the hub too. Some of our boxes are not the current ink of the year. Yeah, April, I was thinking that as well. So I don't think it's like consistent in terms of what inks and how many and who's getting what, but some of our, yeah, I have like 30 vendors to thank. That's awesome. That's really nice. I sadly won't be able to go to our hub. Oh no, Papa Gal. Yeah, hopefully you can make it next year or a future year, if they keep doing them. Out of 80 inks, we got all ink of the year. Oh, wow. So you got no variation either. I don't know if every hub is getting any ink of the year. And then it'll be interesting to see if they don't. Is it, you know, are they getting different inks or... But we will hear about it after. I only went to one hubs before in 2022 and we didn't get ink. Oh, interesting. I don't think it was just our hub. Yeah, I'm not sure how it worked in previous years, because this will be my first year attending. I just haven't been able to attend previous years. So again, this is the Leonardo Momento Zero with a reverse architect. So it's really fun to draw with this nib as well. And because I had Gena grind this, I was able to sort of customize how round the architect nib is, or the architect side, because I mentioned my other pen, the Franklin-Christoph. I have an Architect nib in this, which was ground by CY. And this one is a lot sort of sharper, angled in terms of an Architect than this one is. And I really like the contrast between those two nibs, because this one is more geared towards, you know, writing, printing, but also drawing or sketching. And so I can do like a quick sort of floral sketch as part of my daily practice. And it's kind of fun to do that. And I find with sort of stock or regular Architect nibs, I tend to write in all caps when I'm using them. But with this one, because it feels so comfortable, you know, doing loops and things like that. And so I find that I can also print with it. So it's these small little details that make me love fountain pens so much, and be able to use them regularly. Man, it feels good to be a pen guy. Hi, Jesse. How's it going? It seems like the bigger hubs get ink of the year and smaller hubs got random ones. Yeah, I think that's the general sort of feeling I'm getting too from what I've seen and heard. Oh, okay. And they said the mix was intentional. Yeah. I had an italic by CY. Yeah, CY is one of my favorites. He does do sort of sharper nib grinds, I think. I find, anyways, in my experience, they tend to be a little bit more sharper and they give feedback. And obviously you can sort of, you know, customize it to your liking. But I kind of like that about CY's grinds, is that, you know, I can feel the writing, I can feel the paper. I can feel the sharpness of the nib, and it's a great sort of contrast with other nibs I might have too. So even if I have multiple, you know, nib grinds, like if they're multiple Architects or, you know, a Naginata variation, I do find, you know, it varies by who you get it done. So it's kind of nice that way. And that's why I kind of like going to different nib specialists to get their take on the grind. It makes it unique to them too. So this is the TheCoffeeMonsterzCo Esterbrook Estie. And this is the journaler nib. Because it's a medium journaler, again, it has a little bit of that stub line when you're doing a downstroke, but it's just like very gentle and smooth to write with. So it's a very nice journaling pen and nib. Did you guys see what I got at the Denver show? I don't think I did, Fountain Pen News. What did you get? I have seen a few hauls, but I don't think I remember seeing yours. Yeah, it's sharp, but it still feels good to write with. Yeah, it's not unpleasant. Crisp. I think that's what I mean by like sharp. It's crisp. It makes your writing look so good. Yeah, I find with crisper, like cursive italic sort of nibs, it looks a lot more like you using like a calligraphy nib. So like a pointed pen kind of writing, which like I've done a little bit of calligraphy in the past, and using a pointed pen is not easy. And you know, you continually have to dip it in ink, as you would like, you know, a glass dip pen or just like a dip pen in general. But the cursive italic, especially when it's nice and crisp, is like, it reminds me of using a pointed pen for calligraphy. And I kind of appreciate that, so. So this one is, again, the Estie, and it has a broad journaler nib. And I've had this pen inked up, or actually this nib. I've been using this nib for over a year now. And the great thing about the Esterbrook nib is that you can interchange them. And so I've sort of been moving them around in different Esties depending on the ink that I want to put in it. So it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice in that way to have a custom ground nib that you can interchange and move between pens too. If you sort of, you know, want to use a different pen. A Hanabi glass eyedropper. Yeah, Jesse, you got to get the right angle because it's sharp. And it will tell you, like, you will feel that it's not right if your angle is not right. It will tell you that. I've felt that before. But once you do get that right writing angle, it's great. Not to rub it in, but Hanabi also makes fancy eyedroppers. Yes. Oh, yes. I've seen the fancy eyedropper. Let me see if I can share this. There we go. Not to rub it in. I love that. That's awesome. And stub nib dip pen. Very cool. I love that. Wow. Look at that line. It is so wide and gorgeous. Such nice pens, right? Like these glass pens, they're works of art. Yeah, so nice. That eyedropper is really nice. So pretty. Instead of putting ink in it, I would just stare at it. Like, wait, what am I using this for again? I don't foresee ever being at a show where Hanabi is, so I jumped at it. Yeah, I totally get that. I saw Lucas at the SF Pen Show, got to meet him, you know, talk for a little bit. But I had been teaching a workshop when they opened up the doors. So I kind of missed the first, 2 hours of the door of being at the show. And so when I finally got in and I kind of looked around and I was taking, a tour of the pen show, I was walking around looking at different things. By the time I got to the Hanabi glass table, a lot of his really nice pens were gone. And so everything else was really beautiful, also out of my budget. But so I was like, I wish I'd seen, everything at the table. But there were a handful of glass dip pens left. And I was like, you know what? It's good. It's good because I love that other people are enjoying the pens, as are you fountain pen use. So I love that Lucas is, you know, able to bring pens and that people are enjoying them and see value in them as well, right? They're handmade, like, yeah, just pieces of art. So this is the Crisp Architect from CY. Love it though, especially for shading too. That's why I like drawing with fountain pens when I'm doing my notably inked spread, because then I can get a feel for not just writing with the nib, but also how it feels to draw with it and to shade with it. And sometimes, you know, I do that and I kind of feel like, oh, I don't think I would do that again because it just feels uncomfortable, or the nib is not meant to, you know, be smooth in terms of like drawing and stuff. And that's fine. But it's still kind of interesting, you know, I could flip through my notably inked notebook and see what kind of nibs, you know, I sort of felt comfortable writing and drawing with. And sometimes I bring them back, you know, because I don't keep them inked forever. But sometimes I look back on my swatches and I think, you know what, that was really fun. That was a really fun nib. Or, you know, I love that ink and it's been sitting in my drawer for a little bit. Time to bring it back. So I do that quite a bit too. It's so smooth. Yeah. You bought the cheapest one? I know. I would have done that as well. Because they're all beautiful, right? So I would have been like, you know what, just knowing me as like a nervous user of pens, like glass tip pens especially, where you're kind of like, you have to be precious with them, right? Not only are they made of glass, but they're also so gorgeous that like I would not want something to happen to it. And that being said, I do have nicer glass tip pens. Like I have one from it's like what's the one? Where's my pen? Own, that's what it is. I was like, what is the name? But even this one, right? Like this was on the cheaper end. And I was like, I just really want like a really nice handmade glass dip pen. And it's still so beautiful. Like it's mesmerizing. And even then, you know, I'm very precious with it. Like I keep, you know, this rubbery cap on it because I don't want to drop it. But that being said, I have used it for over a year now. And knock on wood, nothing has happened. So, you know, it is about like being careful with the things, but also knowing where your tolerance is in terms of like how careful do you have to be. So I got mine from, oh, okay. Yes, the little inkwell. I saw there was one that, you know, I was able to use and I was like, it's so nice. It's so pretty and holds a lot of ink too. And I was lucky that the one I had was, or the one I got has a stub nib, which is what I wanted. Yeah. I've also heard that Jacob will repair it if you ever break the nib. That's good. Yeah. And usually they do. Like if you do get it from like a glass studio or, you know, a maker, they tend to, you know, like if something happens, bring it back or send it in or whatever. and they'll take a look at it and see what they can do. So at least, you know, it takes off a little bit of that pressure. Like, yes, they are precious and be careful, but if something were to happen, because accidents do happen, as I always tell my kids, accidents happen, so it's fine. It can be fixed. And also customized. I like that. At the SF Pen Show, when there were a few glass studios this year too, and the creative person, designer, maker behind Glass Studio Alan was there, and so you can also smooth out nibs, like the glass dip pen nibs tips, I guess, if you want, or customize it in like to your writing in certain ways too. So I really like that too. Like if you try it and you're kind of like, this is too sharp or whatever, you can kind of talk to them about it, and maybe they have you know, a tip that works for you. And I also liked that you could try out different glass dip pens, especially if you're going to commit to getting one. It's nice to know, you know, you've tried them and this is the one that sort of speaks to you. Hi, Needle Girl. How's it going? And it's much more substantial than other glass pens I've used. Yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, you can ship it back if it breaks and stuff. I know, he is really, really nice. Very kind. And by chance, when I went to the Hanabi glass table and I was kind of looking around and stuff, someone was actually getting one of the glass pens, and Lucas customized it to be the artist nib, I think it is. And I think I actually got to try it out. Let me see. Yes, the artist nib. And it is like G's Crafties, we were talking about, like the naginata or like, you know, katana, like those type of grinds, having line variation. And I was like, I'm in love. But someone else was getting the pen. So I was like, can I just try it out? Yeah, so it's on my list. It's on my list. Like if Lucas is, you know, back at the SF Pen Show next year, or, you know, if I am at a pen show where also, you know, there are Hanabi glass pens, I would love to sort of take a second look, but it's on my list. Just got home from work travel and now have to work again. I know, it's constant cycle, isn't it? I'm so glad you were able to join though. You have the artist nib too? Amazing. That's so fun. I hope you're having fun with it. Yeah, I really enjoy trying that out because it's so different too. I kind of like the stubby sort of nibs, and in a dip pen it's really nice because obviously, you know, you want to see the ink that you're using along with your tools. So I think he plans on doing more pen shows next year if he can. Yeah. I hope so. I hope so. It's really nice to see more of like pen adjacent brands as well. I know that last year at the SF Pen Show, I think there was 2, maybe 3 glass pen studios, and they sold out so quickly, right? So I think for this year, it was kind of like, we need more of like artisans, like glass dip pens, independent makers, that kind of stuff, because it's just so interesting. And I think, glass dip pens are popular in, Japan, etc., and maybe not so prevalent in Western countries. But I think they're becoming more popular and just more, like we sort of see them as valuable tools, and ways to sort of be creative with them. And I think that's really cool. The EMT Mike, thanks so much for the follow. Welcome in. In case anyone is interested, Pelikan Pen and Ink of the Year gift set is $138 on Endless. That's so cool. There's also Fountain Pen Day coming up in November, so you might be able to find some good deals. I love this ink. It's really, really pretty. Oregon Marionberry. I'm a little sad that it's like such a small bottle because I've been getting through it a little bit. And I think I gave away a sample of it too. But it's so small. I want like one of these big ones. But it's okay. I'll enjoy it while I have it. So I think I will do one more, and it will probably be this gray, the gray ink I have in here. Let me see. I did that last month. You know what? Let's do it with this fun, chunky Kirk grind. The monoline with the reverse cursive italic. That's what we're gonna do. Because I have the space for it. So fun to draw and color with. But also probably would use up a lot of ink. That's okay. I will say it does feel weird to write with the reverse side of a nib. It's like, why am I doing this? What is happening right now? It shouldn't feel like it should write well, but I think after a few times of doing that, it feels less weird. Feels a little bit more normal. Yeah, it does. The monoline does put a lot of ink down. Just really fun though. So this is kind of a fun spread. So we have the currently inked, all 11 of them. And then a little bit more detail in terms of what those, how those nibs perform and what the inks look like, with a little bit more, you know, when they take up a little bit more space. That's kind of fun. I love looking back on these types of spreads. I use currently inked spreads for like reference, and also just a way to document, you know, obviously what I've inked. And looking back on this, it sort of gives me, like, I'm a data person, so it gives me data and patterns in terms of, you know, what I'm inking up, what I enjoy, what kind of colors I'm using. So if I want to purchase, you know, or get more ink, I can kind of look at this and be like, well, what do I actually use? Like, I love all kinds of colors, and yes, I can use them for painting, but what are the inks I actually tend to reach for when I want to ink up a pen? And so it's kind of, you know, in that way, it's very useful to have a currently inked spread. But my notably inked spreads, they're just fun. They're just like a way to enjoy the nibs and the inks that I have without like taking them out to paint with, right? Like, I love painting with fountain pen inks, but once a month, I like just kind of taking out all of my fountain pens, figuring out which ones are kind of, you know, the focus or the, you know, in the spotlight for the month. What are the highlights in terms of fountain pens? And so I like, you know, giving them a little bit more space to show off what they look like. So one of my favorite custom grinds is Kirk's Imperial. It's double-sided. Yeah, that sounds so fun. I have tried Kirk's tester pens, and like all of them are really nice, right? And I like documenting them because then when I go back, I can be like, oh, you know, what about that grind? Let me see. Yeah. So while I was getting the Katana done, I was testing out some other nibs as well. And these are other people's pens where I'm like, ooh, I want to try out other pens. Like you can at Pelikan Hubs probably, right? Take a notebook with you and some fountain pen friendly paper when you go to these meetups, because if people bring pens and are willing to let you try them, it's really nice to sort of document, you know, other pens and nibs that you might like to, you know, get or try in the future as well. Hi, Jenny. How's it going? Welcome in. Cursive, smooth italic forward, and juicy monoline reverse. Ah, yes. I like that. Yeah, that's like a reverse of this. That's awesome. He does one now called a diamond. It's an architect on each side. What? Whoa, that's blowing my mind. I have to try that because it sounds pretty cool. That's so cool. Trying to wrap my head around that. Yeah. So that's my notably inked spread for October. I love too that like there are outliers where it's like, you know, yes, I do tend to go with teals and greens and blues and stuff, but I like how bright and fun they are. And I think normally, you know, I would probably go with like the darker shades or just like true blues. Because I really like, you know, the plums and the mauves and stuff like that. But I also like throwing in like bright teals and brighten it up a little bit. Yes, definitely. Last year at Pelikan Hub, I got to touch a Visconti Homo sapiens magma pen. Oh, amazing. Yeah, I love when you're able to try out pens that like you may never own unless they're like a grail pen that you want to acquire at some point. But a lot of times it's kind of like, I'm probably not going to have this pen, but it's really nice to try them, right? So yeah, at the Philly show one night, this guy kept handing me pens to try. Yes, that sounds like someone at the SF pen show. I think he was part of sort of like the SF, like, you know, pen club type of scene. And he had so many really nice curated pens as part of his collection, and has obviously been collecting for a long time. But yeah, he did the same thing, and he's like, try these pens. And I was like, whoa. I had to, you know, handle them with care, like I would a glass pen, because I was like, I don't want anything to happen to your pens. $30,000 worth of pens. That's awesome. What a collection. So, yeah, let me know. We can keep chatting. Let me know if you have any questions or comments or anything like that. Throw them in the chat. But I'm also happy to talk more about pen shows or Pelikan hubs or whatever, especially because it's coming up this Friday. So I'm looking forward to my first Pelikan hubs, attending it, and trying things out. So I'm just going to leave that there. Was it Greg? Oh, he inherited from his mom. That's awesome. So the one thing I am bringing to Pelikan hubs, and also I'm using this as sort of my hobbies or interest tracker and journal, is the plotter square, which I got at the California Pen Show earlier this year. And I took it with me to the SF Pen Show. And basically it's great because it's like a great size for me to just carry around. And so, yeah, I tried, Eric Gama. I tried his pens, which is so awesome. Kirk. Got to try the Schon Design Evo because Aiden had it. It was so smooth, so gorgeous. Lenny's pens, yeah, Lenny. And some other ones, the inks that I got. So that's kind of fun. I'm going to take this with me to Pelikan hubs and just kind of try out, you know, pens and inks in here, and that way I have it for reference if I do feel like I want to get an ink or something, you know, down the line. I'll always kind of have this here as reference. And then the other thing I have in here is for next year, I got the monthly diary refills from Plotter. And so I threw this in here because I want to use this as like a hobbies tracker and sort of do my, you know, what I have currently inked on these blank plain pages, and probably track like books that I'm reading and things like that. So I just find like having a good size notebook with fountain pen friendly paper is really handy to carry around, especially if you're going to pen events or, you know, meetups where you can try pens or inks. It's like, it's good to have, you know, paper with you to try them out. So that for sure I will be taking with me, as well as ink samples. And I have a lot of ink bottles that I can make samples out of to share. And so I think I'm going to just like kind of randomly pick out some inks that I want people to try out. That might be fun. And then also I will take some of my pens with me, especially my lone Pelikan birdie, just to prove that I also am one of, you know, Pelikan people. I am a fountain pen person. So I will take that with me if, you know, anyone wants to try it or whatnot. If we want to, like, I don't know, compare, take photos. But also I love to take a variation of pens, especially if they're like maker pens, because I find if, you know, people can't or don't have access to pen shows or aren't able to acquire maker pens, I like to sort of bring my collection of, you know, different pens from independent makers as like a contrast, or, you know, there's sort of like different types of pens that you can get. And of course I love, you know, sort of brand pens from different brands. But also I like, you know, different kinds of pens that you just can't find mainstream. So that'll be fun. And different nibs for sure. Custom ground nibs are like, I love trying out other people's custom ground nibs to give me a sort of like a feeling of what I find comfortable writing with, and what works with my writing style too, right? And I think it's helpful when people can try out other custom grinds, especially if they, you know, if they're sort of drawn to a certain stock size. It's like, well, this is a variation of what you can put on this stock nib, right? So I always have a dedicated pen show notebook. Yeah, that's always a good idea. I like having, you know, in like, you know, a dedicated area where it's like, this is, you know, for pen shows and events and stuff like that. So if I have to refer back to like, oh, I did try this nib, right? It's like, yeah, I can look back easily. That was the guy I carpooled with. It was his first pen show. He brought so much stuff to show and tell. That's so nice. That's awesome. I like when people are super excited to share their collection and to show off what they have, which is like, it's really nice. I love to see other people's collections. Oh, the San Francisco guy. Sorry, Apple Tater. I thought you were talking to fountain pen use. I think it was Lenny. Yeah, but I know there were a few people, and I was sitting with Aiden for a bit too, who also brought a few pens to try. There were plenty of people. Kimberly always has, you know, her binders of pens to try, which is really, really nice. All the hobbies. But yeah, I appreciate it. Pen people always have the coolest jobs, and sometimes it's such a surprise. You're like, what do you do? Like, what? You're a surgeon or whatever? And they're like, yeah, and I love fountain pens. Like, okay, great. We have a couple of generous makers who donated pens to our hub. That's awesome. Yeah. So you're bringing some of their pens to get people excited. Yeah. It's always nice to, you know, show variation of like pens that you can get too, where people are kind of like, oh, I'm not sure I'm into, you know, the classic sort of fountain pen look. And I love that modern pens, there's like all kinds of different colors and sizes and shapes that you can get, materials that you can find. So, you know, if you're even a little bit into trying a fountain pen, I'm sure, you could find something that like, looks pleasing to you, but also would help you enjoy the writing experience, which is like a big part of using a fountain pen, is the writing experience. I may have missed it. Oh, Magical Quill. How often do you do a new Currently Ink update? I usually do it every month, once a month. And I usually do it mid-month. So it gives me a couple of weeks at the beginning of the month to test out the pens, like play with them a little bit. Sometimes I find I ink up a pen. So let's take a few steps back. How I decide to ink up my pens. There are some pens, I've mentioned this before, like the 3776, where it has a UEF or ultra extra fine nib in it. And I have a dedicated, I use carbon black. I don't change it up. I don't vary with that. I don't play with it. It has a specific purpose. And so month over month, that will stay the same. But then, when I get new pens or I get custom grinds or I get new inks, I like to play around with nib in a pen and matching it to different inks. And I love pens where I can interchange the nib. And so sometimes, I'll put in a different, custom ground nib into a pen and choose an ink to go with it. And so usually at the beginning of the month, I will ink up a handful of pens that are different from the previous month. And they're meant to just be played with, experimented. There's no pressure to keep using it for the whole month. And sometimes I find in the first couple of weeks, I either vibe with the pen and the ink that I chose, or I don't. And either I will clean out the pen and put it away for another time. Maybe I'm not reaching for it as much as I thought I would, and I just prefer the other pens. Or sometimes I also clean it out and I re-ink it with something else. And I've done that a few times where, I thought that an ink would work really well with a pen and nib combination, and sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay. So sometimes I'll re-ink it. And that's why in the middle of the month, I sort of get a feel for, like, this is my lineup for the month. Like, I feel happy with it. I feel comfortable with it. I use it for writing or journaling or, whatever it is. And that's when I document it. So once I document it, which is kind of mid-month or, even like the third week of the month, I do my currently inked, which is all of the fountain pens I have inked for that month. And then I do my notably inked spread, which I do at the same time. And I just choose 8 to 10 of the pens that I really like that I want to spotlight that month. And it can be a combination of fountain pens that I have inked up month over month. And so like sometimes, I'll see sort of the same fountain pen creep into my notably inked, and it's just because like I really enjoy it. I'm reaching for it. I love it. I want to give it a little bit more space and draw with it and kind of experience it a little bit more. But most of the time it's fountain pens that I've inked up for the month that weren't inked up previously, and I just want to give it a little bit more space to highlight, why, like there's a reason why I choose nibs and inks, because I want to play with them and I want to get a little bit more, I want to give them a little bit more time, right, in my lineup. And yeah, so after I do this, usually what I'll do is I'll review this when I'm planning for my November lineup. And I sort of look at this and I think, okay, well, I love, like some nibs you can't really interchange, right? And that's fine. Like I'll leave them in there. And then I'll review whether or not I want to change out the ink. And if I don't, then it just stays that way for the next month. But sometimes I'll look at something and I'll kind of think, oh, maybe there's a different shade of that ink that I can try. Especially if it's like, a green pen with a certain nib that I like, and I have various green inks that I can throw in there. And so that's kind of the fun part of it, is that I can pre-plan what I want to use in the following month. And sometimes the last 2 weeks of the month is when I start like cleaning out my pens, putting pens away, retiring them for the next month, and taking out other pens. And that's the part of the collection that I love, is that, you know, you retire some pens for a little bit and you bring in other pens and sort of do a rotation that way. So that's how my process sort of works in terms of inking pens, and then also doing my currently inked and notably inked spreads. Did you trim down blotting paper and add it to your square plotter? You know what? I just used, I don't think I did I? No, I didn't, but I do have just like the smaller blotting paper, and I just rounded the corners. So this one is part of like the longer one where there's 3. So I just rounded the corners, but I have customized and cut blotting papers for different sizes for next year. So I will probably do it for the square. And I like rounding the corners just because, you know, it looks better. By Apple Tater, the first time I entered a pen addict giveaway, I won a Banu French poetry. I haven't heard of Liravel pens. Oh, at the Colorado show this past weekend, a bunch of newbies won amazing pens. That's awesome. I love when newbies, or, you know, when people are kind of like getting into the hobby, win giveaways and they're like, what? I'm going to start a TN insert for shows, hubs, etc. Yes, definitely do, Inky. It's a Yoseka special edition. That's awesome. Yeah. I also have a TN insert that I use for like solo trips or trips that I go to by myself, which are pen shows and events. So, yeah, I love doing collages like that. Oh, Meteor Maker. Is this the latest? Oh, there you go. I love that photo. Awesome. Wow. Amazing. That is so creative. Gorgeous. I'd love to see one of these in person, for sure. Magical quill, you're welcome. Process details. I know. I was like, you know what? You asked. I'm going to go through it all. Here you go. It's cool to hear how the spreads fit into the inking cycle. Yeah. I love making it part of my routine. I know, like, sometimes, you know, when you get a new pen, you're like, I want to ink it up right away. Like, yeah, you know, I do too. But I like sort of having like a cycle of like going through pens, using the pens that I have. And sometimes I'm inspired by other people. And this is why I love seeing people's collections, because I'll see something that, you know, triggers like, oh, wait, I have a similar pen, or I have a similar nib. And, you know, I wonder. And so I pull it out for the next month and I put it into my lineup. So I kind of like that process of like planning it out and picking out like what inks I'm going to use and what nibs I feel like writing with. It's just, it makes it like such a great sort of you know, be intentional with the hobby. I like doing that. I love those fancy blotter papers from Esterbrook. Yeah, I know, I do too. I have like so many different types of them that, yeah, I throw them into all of my journals, all of my notebooks. I have them in like everything. And sometimes I cut them to size too, especially if it's like with like my TNs and stuff. I don't know where this one is. Here it is. Yeah, so I'll cut it to size because I don't like it sticking out of the book too much. But yeah, it depends what size, I guess. Yeah, it gives it a nice finished touch. Oh, you should round your corners. I don't know why it's like I feel like something is off when the corners are not rounded. Like when they're just kind of like straight corners. I guess because I really like using notebooks that have rounded corners, right? And so when I throw in a blotter paper, I expect it to sort of align with the corners. I know it's kind of weird, but it just makes sense. He's only been making pens since May? Wow. That's amazing. Oh, and he wore a cloak. Oh, maybe I saw a photo. Yeah, I think so. It's sort of like triggering a memory of seeing something. Very, very cool. That's awesome. Did you share a photo of the pen that you got, fountain pen use? I might have missed it. Or is it on your Instagram? Very cool. I love it. I like these like it's the design is so unique, right? And to make it into a usable fountain pen or whatever, it's like very, very interesting. Like you can use it as a fountain pen and ink it up and, you know, use a converter or a cartridge and stuff, and yet it looks like just art. Let me see. Aha. Oh, that's so pretty. So nice. Yay. I love the color. I love the colorway of that. And the shimmer. Oh, I'm sorry. I just gave everyone a sneak peek. Well, we'll wait until you post it to look at it more. It's unlike anything in your collection. Yeah, that makes it so much more special, right? Like, isn't that interesting how we're kind of drawn to these like outliers of what we're like, what's norm for us, like what we're used to, what we feel comfortable with, and then every once in a while we find something, and it's like, I don't know, it's that feeling of being drawn to something, right? And whether you see it online or you see it in person, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what, this like oh, have a good one, fountain pen use. Enjoy your meeting, enjoy your day. Have a good one. Yeah, it's so cool. I was trapped in using field notes in my TN cover until Roro opened my eyes to the existence of corner rounding punch. Yep. What's my which one do I use? I always have it near me because I use this so much. Kodo Maru Pro. And it has, you know what is cool about this one? Is that it has 3 different types of corners. And I think most corner punches probably do as well, especially if they're kind of these standalone ones. But I find this super useful. Like probably use this one the most for, you know, regular type of paper. And then I think I use this one when I print photos, especially when they're smaller, to put into my journals. And because they're kind of the smaller size, like with a Canon selfie, I tend to round it with this so that I don't cut, you know, most of the photo out. But yeah, I find that super helpful. And now I round everything. Like when I cut or I add loose leaf paper to my plotters, I tend to round them because they all have to be rounded. It's like they all have to look like they belong. I also bought a pen from Bard at Zodiac out of the same material as King of the Night Estie. Ooh, I like that material. It's very nice. Yeah. Yes, you need to get one of these. Magical quill. You do. I think I shared a YouTube short of like accessories or like tools that are stationery related that I use most often. The corner rounder's one. And this hole puncher is another one. This is from We Are Memory Keepers. And this one is for plotter. And so if you have different sizes of ring binders and you're adding loose leaf paper or, you know, you're printing something out and you want to add it into your binder, one of these hole punch is so useful because I used to use, you know, the like one hole punch handheld thing, and it was just the worst because my hand would hurt. And so when I found this, I was like, you know what? There's like different, you know, brands and different variations of it, but it is so useful, as is this. So those are some accessories and tools that, I don't know, like what else do you use that's like really helpful for like your process of using your analog tools? Because yeah, sometimes, you know, there are easier ways to do something, like hole punching or, you know, things like that, where it's like either aesthetic or functional. And there are tools that are made for these things. And I just, yeah. Good glue sticks. Yes, good glue sticks, different types of adhesives. Adhesive tapes that don't, you know, like actually stick. They make all the difference. I have a few notebooks that I actively avoid because of the sharp corners. I could fix them. You see? You have a fix for this now. I know what you mean, Magical Quill. Notebooks that have the sharp corners. Or even like paper where it's like the sharp corners, they turn me off. Like they are just, and the more I think about it, the more I realize that the notebooks I use have rounded corners. I think pretty much everything I use. And I like when brands like realize that even if they make notebooks around the corners, because I don't think everyone notices the corners, and I also don't think that everyone I don't think everyone has the preference, but when you do, subconsciously or consciously, it's like all of a sudden it's something you notice somehow, right? So it's like something I would notice right away without realizing that I noticed it. I got a punch that is a punch anywhere and it comes apart. So you can punch something out in the middle of the page if you want. What? That's amazing. And you have a link? Oh no, I don't think I've heard. Whoa, magnetic punch. Let's see. What? That's cool. I love that. Different shapes. Yeah, that's super, super cool. Ooh, I love that. That's great for like collaging or if you have like, tissue paper or like paper, that you want to add to one of your spreads, or just like make something look good, make a photo look nice, have it framed. I like that. It does seem very fun. Like, I feel like, if you spend the time to do like collage journaling or scrapbooking, something like that, it's like, yeah, it just elevates. It just elevates your spread a little bit. Things we didn't know we needed. I punch an image out of a brochure with it. Yes. Yeah. Or if like you have a background or something that you really like, but you don't want to use or need to use a whole page of it, you can just punch it out and add it. Layer your collage, right? Yeah, I like it. So many accessories too that are useful that we kind of like, I actively have to remind myself to use and take out sometimes, and if I want to sort of keep using or remind myself to use it, I tend to leave it out on my desk or somewhere where I'll see it. So it's like a visual kind of reminder, like, I see you there, I'm going to use you, for example, like acrylic or rubber stamps, stamp pads, things where you're like, you could take that extra little bit of time to add a little bit of, something to your spread or to your journal, and just make it a little bit more interesting, right? Or if you're into stickers or washi tape, I tend to sort of have like a set of stickers sitting on my desk to remind myself to use. For example, TheCoffeeMonsterzCo is like, or kawaii themed stickers. Especially if they're seasonal, I'm so into them, and I'll tend to have them sitting at my desk, or the small icons from TheCoffeeMonsterzCo. I love that Helen does these because they're also washi tape paper or washi paper, and so they're very thin and don't add a lot of bulk to your planner or your journal, especially if you're tracking something. So week over week, I tend to use those icons in my tracker, my habit tracker. And so if I'm using it like on every page or every other page, after a few months, you kind of start seeing the bulk, added to that page or to that section of the book. And I love when it's like thin paper, or that's why stamps can be really useful, because then you can just kind of like, it's not going to add bulk to your book, but it will, like, you can add a visual cue for like trackers and stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of nice to have like the extras that will add a little bit of interest and make the experience of like journaling or planning a little bit more fun. And that's it's the same with like fountain pens, right? For me, I like having pens that have different types of nibs that can be fun, functional, or just, new, that I can experiment with. And then also having, ink sitting close by that I can reach for, and ink up my pens and also remind myself to use them. Right? Like, there's a reason why we get these things. There's a reason why we're into stationery, and then we purchase, all kinds of different stationery tools and accessories and stuff like that. It's a good reminder to use them and to make them part of your routine, right? Whether or not you do them in like a structured way, like you're going to do currently inked or notably inked spreads. And so it's kind of a process. Like, you take out your fountain pens, write with them, draw with them, doodle with them, do whatever you sort of feel comfortable doing. And then add add a stamp or like something little, a sticker, just to like use up your supplies, and then also enjoy the experience and the joy of like using stationery stuff. So But yeah, what else am I taking to Pelikan Hubs? What else should I take? I probably should take like different types of notebooks, right? Like you can play with paper and inks. Ooh, like experiment with what inks look like on different types of paper. That could be fun. Definitely taking my fountain pens and ink samples. Let me see. This is my little pouch. It's from Hobonichi, right? It's like the drawer pouch or something like that. There's a few things in here already. So let's see. Always have a trusty fine liner. This is my, because especially like for writing or drawing, I tend to always pull out my fine liner. And ooh, things people can try out. So a few things I'm taking are like things that, you know, not everyone has and might be curious about. So Tom's Studio fountain pen and the Ren, which is also a refillable fine liner or writing pen, adhesive tape for journaling. And then other things, I'm bringing a bunch of my stickers to share with people because I have quite a few of them. So I need to use up the 2025 ones actually. But then I have like fall October-ish stickers. So I'll give those out similar to what I do at pen shows. And then I have a Kakimori nib dip pen to swatch inks, try them out. I have an ink vial holder from Inkapet, so it's lightweight. I love it. If I bring like ink samples or other people do or whatever, it's always kind of nice to have an ink vial holder just because mess, right? You don't want to make a lot of mess. I would say more paper for sure. Yeah, I agree. I'm for sure going to have to bring more paper. And then I have this really cute Kelsey Doodles Kubo and Lucy sardines container. And this is kind of my little pack of what I use for like ink sampling. So I have cloth, empty ink vials, because if someone has ink that they're willing to share with you and you want to take a little bit home with you, you can always put it there. Or if you're bringing bottles of ink or ink samples and you want to share with more than one person, you can always use it or throw it in an ink vial. Pipettes. I love these swatch cards from Wearingeul. And so you can, like if you're swatching it, like if you're testing inks or you're swatching it for someone else, it's always nice to have a reference, like what was that ink that I tried? Just to put on the ink vials. Ziploc bags to put those ink vials in sometimes. And then I love this mini, what is this? Ink muddler from Dominant Industry. So it has this side where you can kind of swatch. And then if you want to try, you can write with like a dip pen, right? So, and it's really small, so it fits perfectly in here. So it's like, this is my little curated, like what I would essentials of what I would probably need if I'm swatching inks or sharing inks or whatnot. So I think I have probably what I need. And yeah, I don't know. I'll probably throw in some paper as well. I do have printouts of the Ink Pony from Olive Octopus. Ink Pony. Hold on one sec. Inkpony.club. So I have printouts of the Ink Pony. Is it working? maybe. From Lisa at Olive Octopus. And I printed them out on Kokuyo business paper, which is like fountain pen friendly and holds inks pretty well. So if you're painting with them too. I don't want all the ink file holders. You love the inkwell from Tori. Yeah, Stationery Universe. Yeah, Tori is awesome. I have two. This one from Inkapet, which I got at the PNW Pen Show because my girls were with me and they got the axolotl ones, which are really fun. I have that one, and then I also have this one from Fountain Pendulum. And I love this because it's really like chunky. It will not fall over with your ink, right? So and it's really nice wood, really pretty, and I love this sort of soft velvet underneath too. So it's really great. But I don't think I'm going to carry this around with me. I feel like this is sort of more, it's lighter, it's more portable, except for these legs. But it's also very fun. But yeah, you don't need all the ink file holders. Just use the one that you have, and remember to like take it with you, or if you're using it at home, have it sitting there so that like when you're just reaching for an ink sample or something to play with, just throw it in your ink file holder. Because yeah, sometimes I kind of have it there. I'm like, why am I not using it, right? So. I would take the octopus. Yeah, I would take the octopus for sure. It's super fun. And also I do find that because it has these legs, it makes it more sturdy. So it's hard to sort of knock this over as well, even though it feels very light, or it is very light. It doesn't weigh a lot. You want all the ink file holders. I feel like you were pretty adamant about not wanting all the ink file holders. I was like, listen, I agree. You don't need them all. You just need one or two that, or at least one that's probably portable that you can carry with you. But you could have more than one if you wanted to. So funny. I was like, wow. G really does not want more than just the one. Okay. Oh, so funny. Yeah, it would be so funny if you were going. That would be so fun. But yeah, I guess, I can't wait to sort of see the other hubs as well. Like, I wish it was just one hub and we were all able to somehow be there. It would be so fun. But in lieu of that, I can't wait to see, photos and just like everyone's experience at their hubs. And it's kind of nice to be part of it this year, at least, because I don't know if I can, if I can do it next year or whatever, if it's even going to happen. But it's kind of nice to sort of see other people doing it as well, and communities coming together and new people trying it out too, if they're curious to see what's going on. That was my brain, yes, taking over, right? Like, that was very decisive. It was like, no, you do not need, for some reason, you need more than one pen and everything else, but the ink file holders specifically, you do not need more than one. I was like, well, I'm not going to tell you otherwise. So funny. I love it. Well, I have to get... No, I can't stop laughing. It's so funny. Your comment was, I don't want all the inkwell holders. I'm really loving the inkwell from Tori at Stationery Universe. So it seemed very, like, you were very purposeful in that. Like, You had one that you like. You are not going to get any more. And I was like, whoa. Okay. That's all good. You do you. So funny. I love that. Yeah, that was that was a good moment. Well, I hope you had fun in this stream. And I had fun. I had fun doing currently inked and notably inked. Like I said, I do this every month anyways. So if I can have company while I do it, it makes it so much more fun to talk about pens. And also saying it out loud kind of reminds me of why I picked those pens. Because sometimes, you know, you're in the motions of using your stationery tools. And it's not until someone asks you, like, oh, what nib was that? Or, you know, oh, that's an interesting ink or whatever. When someone sort of mentions it and you're explaining what it is, it's kind of like a reminder to yourself, like, oh, yes, this is why I got out that pen, or this is why I got out that ink. And then at the same time, I kind of like seeing the palettes that I'm working with for the month or for that season. And just kind of seeing it all on one page is really nice. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining and for being here and for giving me a good laugh. Yeah. When you rewatch this, I don't know what my face said, but I definitely read it and I was like, whoa. Okay. It's all good. It's all good. Listen, if you don't need more than one, you do not need more than one. Listen to your brain. Don't listen to me. Don't let me enable you. I love all the pens and inks. Yeah, I do too. Yeah, no worries, Magical Quill. Thanks so much for joining, everyone, and for being here. And if you do rewatch, or if you're watching the replay or VOD, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I love that we're all part of this community. If you go to a pen event or a meetup, or if you're going to Pelikan Hubs this week, have so much fun. If you're not, play with your stationery, like play with your pens, play with your inks, take them out, revisit what you have, make a currently inked or notably inked spread, and sort of fall back in love with pens and why we're doing this. Like, why is this a hobby, right? It brings us joy. So definitely play with your stationery stash. Take out all those papers. Try out all of your papers. Round your corners. Yeah, and just have lots of fun. And yeah, have so much fun. Have fun, geez. And next week, I will be streaming on Wednesday again, I think. Yeah, I'd love to hear your experience and how you sort of found the Pelikan Hubs or whatever you were up to. And we'll share what happens, right? And yeah, have a great weekend. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye.